Welcome back, guys, to the Great Ace Attorney Adventures, where last episode, new witnesses were called to the stand in the form of a couple in love, the sleepy policeman Rolly Beat and his wife Patricia, the witnesses to the attack that then told us what they saw. Pressing away, we found the contradiction in the amount of books Patricia said were on the scene. However, a second picture revealed there was indeed 4 there, with one in the victim's hand that draws the eye, with a burn on its back, as we now raise an objection.
Objection!
I'm not done yet! No, my learned friend, it's over. That last cross-examination was your final chance to establish a credible defense, and you failed. The die has been cast. There's no more room for debate. Well, it might be over as far as you're concerned, but... I can't figure what to say. If I may, Lord Van Zeeks, it seems somewhat boorish to close down the debate at this point. Your insignificant little Eastern Isle must be a lawless hole indeed. For a lowly judicial assistant to have the audacity to intervene at a moment like this. Oh. I am, to my shame, still a very inexperienced lawyer. So you'll have to forgive me, but I consider my assistant's advice essential and her opinions invaluable. Mr. Naruhodo!
One of this land's great guiding principles is tolerance, so the court will hear you, madame.
Go ahead, Mr. Sato. Please. Very well. Pray, what insight can you give us? What have we all overlooked in this matter that you see fit to pursue further? Well, the court has been presented with new evidence, but only after the last cross-examination finished.
I see. And you believe that this new evidence warrants further examination, do you?
Mr. Naruhodo, what do you think? It's just possible that this new evidence might be the decisive proof we've been waiting for. The judge is sure to ask the members of the jury to announce their leanings in a moment. And of course, he's sure to ask you to explain what the crucial piece of evidence is and why. So we must take this opportunity to examine the newly presented evidence as thoroughly as possible. Yes, I understand. And thank you, Mr. Sato. This is it. Sato-san has managed to win us one last chance here. Can't let it go to waste. A defense wishes to present evidence, my lord.
Very well. The defense may present one further piece of evidence. Evidence that apparently offers a profound insight into this case and has hitherto been overlooked.
Literally just got it. The 4th book.
Take that!
The evidence in question is what we can see from the newly presented photographic print of the crime scene. The 4th book, found in the victim's hand.
Objection!
We have already discussed the 4th book at length. Other than it being in the victim's grasp at the time of the incident, no significance has been attached to it. Pursuing the matter further would be a flagrant waste of the court's time, as you well know.
Yes, I'm afraid, counsel, I must concur with the prosecution on this matter. When I afforded you this opportunity, you led the court to believe that the evidence in question contained a hitherto undiscovered clue. So I must insist that you elaborate, counsel. You will identify this clue at once. Do I make myself clear?
Oh, yes, my lord. It's, Mr. Naruhodo. I believe the prosecution is trying to avoid a thorough examination of the evidence. Which means you may very well be on the right track. Yes, I think you might be right.
So, counsel, precisely where the vital clue to this case, which this 4th book conceals?
Rotate. 4. It's the burn. Time to fling someone else into the fire a little bit.
Got it!
I would ask the court to observe the back of the book in question.
The back? What are you? Good gracious! It's been burned to a crisp.
So we have to ask ourselves, why was the victim clutching what is clearly an unreadable book? It is undeniably an extremely unnatural thing for her to have been doing.
Objection!
Unnatural, you say? And what of it, my Nipponese friend? Why, to concede the point, if it bears no relation to the case, there's nothing to discuss. So should you wish to assert that this fire damages some veiled clues to what happened that day? Pray, do enlighten us all. What truth does this charred book hide?
A charred book? There is just one possibility here, which I can't quite bring myself to rule out. It's an outside chance certainly, but worth a try. Alright, I'll explain my theory.
Don't keep us waiting any longer then, Counsel. Explain this theory of yours. What are you suggesting that you can ascertain from the fire damages Soritomo suffered?
Its owner.
My lord, the bird on the back of this book reveals a startling truth.
About the book's owner.
I beg your pardon?
But we already know who the book belongs to. The victim was gripping it in her hand as she fell to the floor. After all, it's obviously hers. The question of how this book came to be in the victim's hand has yet to be answered. However, as to the question of who the book really belongs to and where it originated, the defense has very credible answers.
Good gracious! How can you possibly... Very well, I'll play along with this futile attempt to delay your inevitable demise. But do remember, the members of the jury may well burn you if your little gamble goes awry. Counsel, the defendant's response here is very likely to influence the final outcome of this trial. So tell the court, who do you claim is the owner of this burnt book?
Ooh, here's a question. So, it's the Garridebs, but I can't claim the Garridebs are owners of the book. He's technically the owner of the book, but she's literally here, which causes us very much issues with the jury. So who to choose? Because literally, like, that's his book, or he said it was his favorite book. But he's not here. This is like, oh. Oh, I can't even, like, look at any information. I can only present and look at the history. Obviously, we're not doing anyone here. Poor Olive Green. Do I choose the person who's in attendance or the person that isn't even here and hasn't been introduced to the court? It makes sense to go for the person who is introduced to the court. But equally, it's only one penalty? Because if he's not here, then we're just like, But a member of the jury is. Sorry for umming and ahhing over this, but this is a bit of a question here. One guy not, one guy is.
Take that!
The answer is that the book belongs to the couple who own the house where the defendant has his lodgings. A certain Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb. I could have chose either of them. The landlords. And whether this is some extraordinary coincidence or some kind of fated work, I don't know, but... Of all the people in London, one of the 6 chosen for jury duty in this courtroom today is none other than Mrs. Garrideb herself. Oh my goodness, me? I think you must be mistaken, sir. I'm not Mr. Garrideb's wife. I'm his maid. Things would be so much easier if you would just drop the pretense. All right then, how about a simple question for you? Have you ever seen this book in Mr. Garrideb's house? I would never presume to know all of the books he keeps, sir.
Objection!
This is outlandish behavior. This woman is the accused landlady, you say. You implicate this hard-working member of the public. You besmirch her without a shred of evidence. Your actions are unforgivable.
Objection!
This is not mere conjecture. The defense happens to know that on the day in question, at almost exactly the same time as the victim was stabbed on the pavement below, another incident was taking place in the room on the top floor of Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb's house.
Good lord! What sort of incident, counsel?
A fire, my lord.
Afraid to say it was. Happened in the blink of an eye, you know. The whole place filled with smoke. Couldn't see a bally thing. Didn't take long for the fire to spread, of course. The bally furniture started going up as well. Worst of it is, I lost my favorite. Book called The Lion's Pride.
The Lion's Pride.
By Jove, the very same title as the subject of this debate.
Oh dear me!
Objection!
This is risible. All you've told the court is that the book by the same name was involved in a fire. In which case, it would be reasonable to assume that it was burnt to ashes. And entirely unreasonable to infer that it magically removed itself to the scene of the crime.
Perhaps it would make more sense if I told you that the cause of the fire was marital discord. Without going into details, it appears that Mrs. Garrideb was considerably enraged. Apparently, she continued to attack Mr. Garrideb even amid the flames. Oh, how awful! I can't even imagine being so horrid to the one you love. Can you, Rolly?
Absolutely not, sir! My Patricia would never raise a finger against me, sir! And all my favorite old novels in that case. But as soon as the fire got hold of them, that was it. Whoosh! Up in smoke. Then the wife started hurling things at me. There was I, back up against the window, under heavy enemy fire. Incendiary books coming 10 to the dozen. The man had his back up against the window, and he had burning books thrown at him. Goodness gracious! Are you suggesting that the book was thrown through a window and landed coincidentally at the scene of the crime?
Objection!
No. A thorough investigation of the surrounding area was conducted the very evening of the incident, and there was no report of the Garrideb's window pane being broken.
That's quite true. We also saw no sign of broken glass when we visited the Garrideb household. But is it not conceivable that the window was open at the time in...
Not even remotely. Let us not forget the season and the chilling weather that accompanies it. No Londoner would ever leave a window open in the middle of winter. Does the defense postulate this scenario in all seriousness, counsel? You earnestly claim that the book found at the scene was a flaming projectile thrown by Mr. Garrideb's wife.
I believe it's a possibility, my lord.
That's quite enough.
He is here?
No, it's you.
Well, I hope that everyone can see you for what you are now, you little foreign trickster. You call yourself a lawyer, but you're just a coward. A mean coward.
Really?
Claiming that a little tiff set the whole neighborhood alight. Honestly! Implying that I'm merely posing as a maid for appearance's sake. How could you? It's nothing to do with this beastly case, not any of it. All you've done is sully our family's name. No, I assure you that was never my intention. Dragging an upstanding citizen's name through the mud simply to divert attention from your failing defense. I should box your ears, that's what I should do. It's utterly unforgivable.
Too right. Here we go. How long have we sat here now listening to this Nimini spouting out his fancy foreign theories? But think about it. At the end of the day, the only person who could possibly have stabbed the victim is that little hunchback with a mustache, and he ran away from the scene too.
I do declare you're right.
It's true.
Yes, what did I tell you?
Makes sense to me. Sorry. What's that? Well, it would appear that the ladies and gentlemen of the jury are once again in full agreement. What is your position, Lord Van Zeeks?
In truth, my lord, I feel these have been unnecessarily protracted proceedings. But then one must always exercise patience in order to savour the best vintage. No, wait! The mystery of the fourth book still hasn't been...
If books are your predilection, my learned friend, study them on your own time.
What? No forgive the discordancy this time?
In that case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will now state your individual decisions regarding the defendant's culpability for the court to hear.
Guilty!
Guilty.
Guilty! Guilty! Guilty!
Guilty.
Again?
Thank you for that unambiguous response.
That's twice now. It's over. Mr. Naruhodo, don't give up. Mr. Zato, have you forgotten? The battle isn't over yet. You're not suggesting... Of course, the defense has the right to another summation examination at this point. You can still convince the jurors to change their minds. You have one more chance. My lord, the defense asked to exercise its right to a summation examination. You believe you still have tricks up your sleeve? I don't intend to trick anybody. I intend to uncover the truth. There's no time to be downcast. As long as there's a chance, I have to stay strong and determined. Oh, to be continued at the point of a fully guilty swing of the scales. Let's continue to our summation examination then.
I have considered the defense counsel's request for the further summation examination of the jury. And I have determined that the court must uphold the defense's judicial right to this procedure. So, counsel, you will now proceed with your second summation examination. I presume the jury is ready, Mr. Foreman? We are, my lord. Very good. In that case, I must ask each of you now to state clearly and concisely for the court the grounds on which you find the defendant guilty of the crime.
Tell me the findings. The jurors' contentions.
The accused left behind evidence of the scene, didn't he? Those 3 books of his.
If there was some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed, I might reconsider. Even if the woman was throwing books, it can't be related to this crime if the window was closed, can it? Dear me, it was only a little book, hardly life-threatening even with a direct hit.
Look, I just want to get this over with. If I don't bring home some pay tonight, I'll be in a tiny bit of trouble. Come to think of it, we had a fire at home a while ago. It gave me the sneezes.
Completely useless.
Yes. Considerably more tangible argument from all members of the jury this time around, it seems.
Really?
With one notable exception, of course. My learned student friend was unable to find fault in the previous witness testimony.
I mean, I did.
So the court must accept the fact that it was indeed the accused seen fleeing from the scene. And moreover, no one else was even at the scene to commit the crime. Well, if the eyewitnesses are correct, it would seem as if the conclusion is somewhat set in stone. I fail to see how it can be argued any other way.
That means I'm afraid that during this summation examination, it's essential that you establish some other tangible explanation for the facts. But how? What would even constitute a tangible explanation here, considering the judge also thinks those explanations given by the jury were tangible?
Isn't it obvious? Who stabbed the woman, and how? Those 2 details are all you need to provide. Simply give us a name and a method by which the attack was conducted.
And there I was thinking this might be hard. But Mr. Naruhodo, you have to do it. Otherwise this really will be where the trial ends.
No pressure then. That's quite enough preamble. Proceed with the summation examination, please. I presume you are prepared, Counsel?
Oh, yes, my lord. All right, Ryunosuke. Focus your mind now. Clearly, the key to the summation examination is going to be juror number 4, the maid. Or should I say, Mrs. Garrideb? We have a book that disappeared from the Garrideb's house on the evening of the incident. And the 4th book found in the victim's hand. There must be a way to link the two. Yes, that's what we have to find. Using every technique I've learned in my short career so far. Whatever it takes. Don't forget to keep an eye on Mrs. Garrideb and how she reacts, even to the things other people say. Oh, okay. An opportunity to pursue. A defense's rebuttal.
The accused left behind evidence of the scene, didn't he? Those 3 books of his.
Hold it!
But as we now know, there were 4 books, not 3.
Well, what difference does it make?
There's every possibility that the 4th book, in fact, belongs to the defendant's landlord.
Yes, that's the part I have a problem with.
Sorry?
Well, at the point the woman was stabbed, this landlord fellow was at home, wasn't he? Enjoying a fiery scrap with his wife or something, you said.
That's not exactly how I put it, no.
Well, anyway, the point is, the fellow and his wife were somewhere else when it happened. Yeah.
I think that's what you call a strong alibi.
So it couldn't have been the landlord who did it, which only leaves the Nipponese fellow. Honestly, I can't see what all this palaver's about. It's a done deal, isn't it?
I suppose it is, since I've nothing witty left to say. He's going to be immovable throughout, isn't he? If there was some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed, I might reconsider. She threw a knife out the window.
Hold it!
So, you might be willing to change your decision, you mean? Oh my, such delight on your face, but I'm afraid I shan't be swayed by emotion. Despite what you may think of me, I am a very modern, metropolitan and rational woman. That's great. If one reads the morning papers, it's all forgotten by tea time, isn't it? So why read them in the first place? You see, modern, metropolitan, and rational thinking, wouldn't you say?
And not at all extreme.
As I see it, an overwhelmingly suspicious Japanese man has been implicated by overwhelmingly strong testimony. So despite 1 or 2 minor puzzlements, I do declare that the man is overwhelmingly guilty. Modern, metropolitan, and rational logic, wouldn't you say? Overwhelmingly. But as modern gals are always delighted to embrace new fads, you know. So I'd only be too happy to consider an exciting new theory if you could come up with one.
I'd be happy to do that too, if only I could.
Let's do our very best not to disappoint the modern and metropolitan young lady. Right. I'm glad you admitted rational there. Even if the woman was throwing books, it can't be related to the scrum if the window was closed, can it?
Hold it!
What about the possibility that the window was open? What about it? I mean, there's just no way it could have been... How can you be so sure? The prosecutor fellow over there said it earlier, didn't he? Winters in London are no joke. You don't want to invite that sort of cold indoors. So no, that window wasn't open, as London's like sitting by the fire and staying warm, see? But you couldn't categorically state that the window wasn't open, could you? It just wasn't. They wouldn't have opened it. Then what's the point in even having windows, huh?
Counsel, you will kindly refrain from childish bickering.
Oh, sorry. Somehow I need to show there's an undeniable possibility that the window was open. And I think I've already caught on to that one. Because this young man isn't going to budge otherwise. Let's continue down the line, even though I think I know where we're going with that. Where there's fire, there's... Dreamy, it was only a little book. Hardly life-threatening even with a direct hit.
Hold it!
But the little book was on fire at the time, was it not? With flames of love, I'll have you know. There's really no such thing as a loving incendiary bomb. Well, he brought it upon himself. It's playing with fire to betray a fiery love. Is it? Well, don't you agree? Oh, well, any kind of betrayal is certainly a bad thing, yes. But I think the argument might have arisen out of your misunderstanding, Mrs. Garrideb. Never of you mind that. The point is we were just having a jovial little dispute, nothing more. And I won't have any more of these suggestions that it was anything whatsoever to do with this crime. I can't do her voice at all, but here we go. Right, well, we'll see about that. But what about juror number 5? Doesn't seem to be turning her hair at Mrs. Garrideb's relentless onslaughts. It's almost as though he's used to it. What a gentle soul he is.
Look, I just want to get this over with. If I don't bring him some pain tonight, I'll be in a tiny bit of trouble.
Hold it!
Just want to get this over with. How can you sit there and say something like that? A man's future is at stake here.
Well, him and me both then, like I said before.
What?
I told you already. I'm a day labourer, aren't I? If I don't bring home some readies with me tonight, you'll find me floating face down the Thames tomorrow morning.
What?
You heard me. My missus isn't one to mess about, you know. She can be fierce, believe you me.
Another shining example of marital bliss then.
A situation like this cropped up the other day. It was, well, you know, it's funny, but I can't quite remember.
Sorry?
It was too frightening. That's the thing. I must have blocked it out.
Helpful. I wonder if Mr. Pete will ever be dragged into the Thames by his scarf. Don't even go there, Miss Susanna. There must be some way to jog his memory about this. Okay, so there's something here. It looks like 4 and 5 are linked by a common marital thread.
Come to think of it, we had a fire at home a while ago. It gave me the sneezes.
Hold it!
Does that have anything to do with your decision about the defendant's culpability in this case?
Sorry, what's that? You'll have to speak up, lad.
Could you tell us more about that fire?
It was last winter. My grandchildren baked me a lovely cake on my birthday. It had 75 candles on the top of it. What a sight to behold it was.
You put candles on a cake? Was it some kind of devil worship?
Of course not. It was an angel cake. To celebrate my birthday, obviously.
Seems that's a common custom here in Great Britain, Mr. Naruhodo.
Anyway, I mustered all my puff to blow them out. Only I must have blown wrong somehow. The flames didn't go out, but candles went flying all over the room.
That's some power.
The furniture caught and everything went up. The whole place filled with smoke.
Definitely sounds like devil worship to me. And by the sneezes, I presume you mean a cold. But how did you catch a cold from a fire?
What a fiasco it was! The grandchildren, bless them, threw water over me as they tried to put out the flames. And then, because the whole room had filled up with smoke, of course, we had to open all the windows to clear it.
The windows?
The biting winter air rushed over me like the devil dancing on my grave, it did. I caught a terrible cold from it. Put me in hospital for a while. I won't forget that birthday in a hurry.
I knew it was devil worship all along. But something about this old man's story is playing on my mind for some reason. We need to demonstrate who, apart from Mr. Natsume, could have attacked the young woman on the street. As well as how he or she could have done it. Yes, but once again the jurors' statements are full of personal prejudice. A lot of them seem convinced they're right, even in the face of logical arguments to the contrary. I think you're going to need to pit them against each other to force them to accept an alternative explanation. Yes. I don't necessarily need to find contradictions between their assertions, just a connection might do the trick. Alright, I'll see what I can do. If anything stands out, I'll go in for a strike. That's the spirit. So we got no contradictions, but we definitely have a connection. It's you. So even if the woman was thrown books, it can't be related to this crime if the window was closed, can it? It can if the window had to be opened because of the fire. He's changed his dialogue, I see. Winter house fires at die. You have to open windows to clear the smoke. That's where the chill gets you see.
Objection!
These two jurors' statements clearly contradict one another.
And they do? How exactly, counsel?
You're pointing at me again. I told you it wasn't me.
What's that you say? Speak up, lad, speak up.
Juror number 3, do you see? Oh, me? See what, sir? Did you hear juror number 6's account of his birthday celebrations last year? seems despite being a Londoner, he once opened his windows in the middle of the winter. Oh, yes, of course, because it was an emergency. I mean, obviously, if the room was filled with smoke from a fire, then you'd be mad not to open the... Oh! Exactly. On the day in question, at the time of the incident, there was a fire in the Garrideb household. And Mr. Garrideb had the following to say about it. The whole place filled with smoke. Oh, my hat! Whoa! Well, that's a change. It's not so much about what we've made you do. It's more about what we made her do. And we could leave her on this animation forever and wonder when she might be fit to burst. Okay. So, a pitting of things bringing juror number 3 to a realization about a window being opening has caused Mrs. Garrideb to be a little bit, triggered, I guess. So, with that said, we pursue her next episode on the Great Ace Attorney Adventures, where we find out why exactly she's breaking down and what this may lead to. I'll see you guys then for more. Bye-bye.